This past week at the Huntmar Police Station on the west side of Ottawa, Ontario, the concluding days of Constable Helen Grus's disciplinary tribunal were taking place. Prior to these proceedings, Detective Grus held an upstanding record and is a diligent police officer described by her colleagues and superiors as exemplary. But she's now facing charges of discreditable conduct for the crime of accessing the Ottawa Police's digital records management system, called RMS, to information gather following an unusual pattern of infant deaths, notably a doubling or tripling of sudden and suspicious infant deaths following the rollout of the COVID-19 novel vaccines. In the two most unusual instances, healthy, alert babies went limp and died in their mother's arms. There are 5, if not 6, infant deaths in a few-month time span from May 2021 until January 2022 that involve circumstances related to the cause of death that can be correlated with listed adverse events in Pfizer's clinical trial data, such as myocarditis or inflammation of the heart, metabolic disorders of the blood, and stillbirth. In 2 of the most glaring instances, the investigating detectives closed the files without completing the required medical questionnaire, and another was closed without autopsy details. She understood that she was not a medical professional and that more information was needed. Defense lawyer Bathsheba Vandenberg states about Grus's repeated testimony and recorded interviews. Prior to these harrowing details, Jessica Barrow, who's the new prosecution on this file, dedicated nearly an entire day in the hearings to form what the defense referred to as a new theory, establishing a timeline with a multi-page chart tying Grus's various communications within the force, a USB key she was saving research on, and the time codes that she accessed the RMS database to frame her work as though she had launched some sort of personal investigation into the string of baby deaths. But was her pursuit of this investigation a breach of duty, or was she merely doing her job to protect the public and preserve life? The defense argues the latter. This raises some critical questions about police discretion, public safety, and the commonplace accessing of the RMS database to pull out information to see if a pattern can be established, whether it be linking various crimes together or making sure that details are adequately documented before closing a file. This is something the defense argues is a responsibility of officers to use their discretion to do, and they are mandated under the Police Services Act to preserve life and protect the public, something Grus repeatedly says in her compelled interview with superiors throughout her testimony in this case, and through conversation as she tried to bring concerning data and information to her higher-ups relating to this topic. The prosecution argues that Grus overstepped her authority and improperly assessed sensitive files. However, the defense maintains that Grus was simply exercising her police discretion, acting within her duty to preserve life and protect the public, and repeatedly calls out the prosecution for not being clear on what the prohibited acts Grus is accused of engaging in are by failing to reference any police infractions or regulatory offenses. Grus's defense attorney, Bathsheba Vandenberg, argues that there is no such thing as an unauthorized investigation in policing. Vandenberg asserts that Grus was merely fulfilling her duties by investigating a possible link between the vaccine and these deaths, which she was concerned was a public safety issue. Vandenberg utilized various officers' witness testimony and Grus's superiors' investigative reports to drive this point home. The core of the charges against Grus now include 3 main allegations. Grus initiated a supposed unauthorized investigation with new inferences about note-taking discrepancies and interfered with an infant death investigation by calling the father of one of the deceased infants. But the defense counters that accessing the database is a routine police activity, and Grus did not overstep her duties because none of what she did is clearly defined, either by the actual charge Grus is faced with or by any rules, policies, or regulations governing her conduct. Grus was acting within her discretion as outlined by the Police Services Act to preserve life and protect the public. The prosecution claims that Grus's actions discredited the force, but the defense argues that there was a legitimate concern. Missing medical data in some of these cases and a potential link to adverse vaccine effects as listed in Pfizer's own clinical trial data. Grus's concerns were obviously based on real concern, and the trial revealed alarming infant deaths post-vaccine. Grus wasn't just following a hunch, but acting on what she believed was an urgent issue tied to public safety, which found that out of 32 recorded pregnancy outcome in Pfizer's trial data, only one, yes, that's one, baby survived. To this day, Pfizer's product monograph, known as the package insert, says that no data are available yet regarding the use of Comirnaty during pregnancy, and no data are available yet regarding the use of Comirnaty during breastfeeding. It is unknown whether Comirnaty is excreted in human milk. A risk to the newborns/infants cannot be excluded. What's critical here is that Grus never concluded the vaccine was the cause. She simply raised suspicions that warranted further investigation. And instead of heeding her warning, Grus has been persecuted for her attempt to be diligent and save babies' lives. Plus, this information gathering endeavor and private police matter are not usually made public knowledge before a report can at least be reviewed and an investigation can take place. So who from the Ottawa Police Service leaked this information to CBC journalist Shamini Yogaratnam, who has been silent on the case throughout the proceedings against Grus? And why weren't they investigated or disciplined for putting the internal affairs of the police force in the spotlight and into the public's eye? Notably, Grus is now suing the CBC for $875,000, alleging the state broadcaster published false statements, including malicious, harmful, and harassment articles. With the final hearing delayed on Friday, January 10th due to technical issues, the next scheduled date is to be done virtually through Microsoft Teams this coming Tuesday, January 14th. But it will be weeks, if not months, before the de facto judge and tribunal hearing officer, retired Superintendent Chris Renwick, who has no formal legal training, delivers his verdict, and we'll be sure to update you when the time comes, so stay tuned. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. If you appreciate that I was on the ground, in the room, delivering you this journalism, please consider supporting my work at rebelfieldreports.com. I had very modest accommodations and very modest meals, mostly coffee, to get me through the last 2 days. If you can, chip in to support this work at rebelfieldreports.com. Thanks so much for your support. It's really appreciated.